Well, hey everybody, it's Outland. How's it going? Today I thought I'd do a kind of a recap video of my trip to Colorado this past summer. Thought I would talk about the places we went, some of the things we did, some of the hikes we did. A lot of you have been asking about the hikes and the trip itself, so I thought I would just do a summary of the entire 4-part series of the trip to Colorado this past July. So grab a tasty drink and let's get at it. So what I'm drinking is a little Bullet Frontier bourbon whiskey tonight. It's nice and smooth. I actually really like the taste of it, especially on the rocks like this. So I'm going to be sipping on this while we talk. So as I said, this past July I went to Vail, Colorado. That was our base camp area. And I went with a group of buddies. This was the largest group that we've ever done for what we call the man camp. Now, I've done a lot of man camp videos, and you've seen a lot of these guys in a lot of the videos. And this time we were able to get just the largest group of guys together to go all the way out from Ohio and beyond out to Colorado. We had one guy from California. Most of us were from Ohio, but it was kind of neat to be able to get all these people coordinated out in Vail, Colorado. Now, I should specify, this was not a backpacking trip. This was strictly a day hiking, kind of day adventure, vacation type of trip. And that was really just because of the logistics of where we were staying and what we were planning on doing for the trip. My buddy had a timeshare in downtown Vail that we went out to, and that's where we stayed every night, and that's where we slept. And we would spend every day hiking, biking, exploring, all the cool things that there are to do in Vail, which I had no idea. There was so much to do other than just skiing in Vail. I was amazed at how cool it was. Yes, I am wearing some of my swag from that trip. Of course, my Vail hat, my touristy ball cap that I got at a souvenir shop that was closing. I think I paid $5 or $6 for this hat, normally $25. It was crazy how cheap I got it. And then of course I'm wearing my Melanzana hoodie, which I bought in Leadville. I'll talk about that trip to Leadville here in a little bit. So we flew out of Cincinnati on a Saturday morning. It was about a 5-hour flight, I believe, including the layover in Chicago. We had some time to kill in Chicago, so we ended up just kind of hanging out there. But it wasn't a short flight, but it wasn't terribly long either. I've had longer flights. Vail's about a 2-hour drive from Denver, so it's not a terrible drive, but you do, for us, once we flew out there, we had to get a rental vehicle and drive out there. So we rented a Jeep Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, and my brother-in-law drove us the 2 hours. We drove out to Vail and got to our timeshare and just kind of hung out there. We just kind of explored Vail that first day. We kind of walked around, checked out downtown. It was very, very neat. That I've never been in a town quite like that before. I've been in mountain towns and even ski towns before, but I've never experienced that feeling like Vail. Even when I was out in Utah a few years ago, I did Sundance and Park City and places like that, and they had a different feel to them than Vail. Vail was just obviously very upscale, very high-end, very rich, lots of money there. It was surprising the amount of money there, but I kind of expected that. One thing I didn't expect was the amount of just amazing restaurants and breweries and things. There were just lots of different things bars and places to check out, which was really, really neat. Downtown was very cool. The cool thing was our timeshare was just maybe a mile or two from the main strip, I guess you'd call it, of Vail, which is considered, it's kind of 3 little villages, and there's 3 different sections, and they're each kind of different in their own way. They all have that German alpine feel. They're all kind of different, but it was kind of neat. So we could take a bike path and walk from our timeshare back to the Vail Village and explore that. And if we didn't want to walk back, then we could do a shuttle for the hotel and ride back, which was really, really cool. So after our first day or so of exploring, we actually did have hikes scheduled, and what we wanted to do is explore within Vail, work our way up, kind of get ourselves acclimated before we got into anything really, really crazy. We knew we wanted to do a 14er on that trip, which we ended up doing. I did not complete it, but we'll talk about that. So we thought we'd start out, hit it kind of hard, and we decided to do the Berry Picker Trail, which is straight up Vail Mountain. And it's normally a ski run, but there are hiking trails that go all the way up this mountain. And it was only about 3 miles, but it was a rough hike. It was crazy. And man, it was fun. But that day was kind of rough, you know, even for July. The weather was warm, temps were warm, but the rain, it was a relentless rain. We hiked all the way up, I forget how many feet of elevation gain we actually did. I'll put that at the bottom of the screen there for you, but it was a steady climb. It was just consistent, straight up, very little switchbacks. It was a rough climb. And you know, coming from Ohio, it was kind of tough for me, you know, trying to get acclimated, but I did feel like I had as much difficulty this time as I did the last time I was in Colorado. I honestly think I have to attribute the better experience I had this time with acclimation. The only thing I can attribute it to is the ginkgo biloba that I took for about a month before I flew out to Colorado. And it sounds crazy, but I think it really did help me. It really did do something. Or it was just a placebo effect and it did nothing for me and I just thought all that in my head. I don't know, whatever it is, I had so much better time this time than I did 10 years ago when I was in Colorado. In the Rockies, same or less elevation. I think the most I did was 10,000 feet the last time I was there. And I just had a terrible time. I was dizzy, I was falling off of rocks, everything else. This trip, I had no problems. I was legitimately just really had no real difficulty breathing. A little bit fatigued, but really wasn't bad at all. Oh man, that's good. So that Berry Picker Trail was absolutely awesome. I totally recommend that Berry Picker Trail. I would say do it, you know, just do it. The fun thing is, if you don't drive up and you actually hike up the mountain, you can ride the gondolas back down for free. They don't charge you to ride them back down. So that was kind of cool. You know, we were pretty fatigued and tired and just kind of done with the day at that point, done with the hike, and we got to ride the gondolas back down, and it was a beautiful view, and it was just gorgeous, and it was really cool just to do that. The top of Vail Mountain there, it's kind of interesting. It's very touristy, of course. It's a ski resort. So you get up there, after this hard hike up this mountain, and you're at a gift shop, you're at a lodge, there's a restaurant, all these, there's a Starbucks up there. I actually got a Starbucks coffee. I think I paid $7 for a Starbucks coffee at the top of this mountain. So it was kind of weird, and I think the guys that were with me, we kind of agreed that it wasn't the kind of wilderness experience that we really were hoping for. You know, as we were going up the mountain, there are roads that go all the way up there to the top of Vail, and there was all kinds of maintenance vehicles, there were construction vehicles, we could hear these machines, this machinery, and that was kind of weird. You know, it wasn't really what any of us were really thinking about, or really expecting, but that it is a ski resort, and that's what they're known for. So we should have known that, but you know, so the secluded experience we did not have with the Berry Picker Trail, unfortunately. So that led us to our hike the following day, which was the Surprise Lake Trail. And man, I honestly believe, my opinion is that was the best hike of the entire trip. It was absolutely gorgeous. Now that was just outside of Vail. I believe it was about 8 miles from Vail. We had to drive a little bit to Minturn, Colorado. But that hike, it could have just been the mix of the weather, but I think it was just everything about that hike that we did was amazing. That hike took us into the Mount of the Holy Cross Wilderness, which is originally the 14er that I wanted to do, was Mount of the Holy Cross. We decided pretty quickly that we were not going to do that trip, but the hike back into Surprise Lake was just so cool. It was absolutely amazing, just beautiful. And once you kind of get back in off the trail a little bit, there was no one else back there. It was very secluded, very scenic, lots of change in scenery. It was, you're hiking along a raging stream, and then all of a sudden you're in a meadow, and then you're in aspen woods, and then you're back to woods again, and you can see Mount of the Holy Cross from a good portion of the trail. And then finally, at the end of this hike, you reach Surprise Lake, and it is just stunningly beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. We ended up doing a lunch break there at the edge of the lake. We bushwhacked our way around the lake on an unofficial trail area, and we kind of set up a little area. We just sat on some rocks, and we just sat there by the lake. And we, my brother-in-law actually fell asleep on the. He had his Helinox chair with him. I'm an idiot and didn't take mine, so I didn't have a chair. I had to sit on a hard rock. But man, it was just cool. Took my shoes off and stuck my feet in the water, and it was just, oh, it was heaven. It really was. That hike was around, I want to say 6 to 7 miles total. It was not a hard hike, really not that difficult elevation gains or anything like that, but the payoff was just absolutely amazing. It was worth every bit of effort to get back there. We loved that hike. I think the other guys agreed with me that that was their favorite hike as well. We all just were just amazed by every turn that we would just come around and just be like, oh, wow, oh gosh. I would have loved to been able to backpack in that area, that Mount of the Holy Cross Wilderness. I'd love to go backpack in there and spend about 3 or 4 days just exploring that wilderness area. That would have been epic. So I highly recommend Surprise Lake right there in Minturn, right by Vail. It's very close to Vail. Absolutely stunning hike. It was absolutely beautiful, and really, for the true Colorado experience, if that's what you're looking for those huge mountains, raging streams, snow-capped 14ers around you. It's got it all. It really does. That hike is beautiful, and I want to do that one again. Oh, man. Okay, so some of the other things we did on that trip, and I'm not sure, I don't remember which day it was. I don't know if it was the Surprise Lake day or another day, but we each kind of had to plan a separate activity. That was our assignment, was to plan a separate activity outside of hiking. So my one friend kind of planned the hiking trips, the hiking routes, and the rest of us had to come up with something to do other than that. My choice was to do the afternoon and evening after the hike in Leadville. Really, it's for selfish reasons, because I wanted to go get myself one of these. But I convinced the guys that there was a brewery there. We would find a nice restaurant. We would have a great time. So we ended up doing that. We ended up going to Leadville the afternoon after the hike, and it was a very interesting experience. Leadville is it's just absolutely beautiful town. Absolutely gorgeous. True mountain town, Colorado experience. I was amazed. I loved it. Nothing really like that here in Ohio. Nothing even close to that. And so we went into Melanzana. I went in to find myself this hoodie, whatever I could find. Really, I went into Melanzana hoping I could just get something that would fit me. And of course, it was a Thursday. I'm like, a Thursday, it's not going to be crowded, right? Nobody will be at Melanzana on a Thursday. The place was absolutely packed. It was absolutely packed. And I went over to the shelf with these hoodies, and of course, they did not have any size large. None. They had mediums, they had extra large, they had extra large, they had extra small. No larges. So I was bummed, and I went over and I picked up a medium, and I went and I tried it on, and it was tight. And I was like, I'm going to buy this medium anyway because it's a Melly, and I want a Melly so bad that I'm going to buy one. So I went and I bought this medium size melly that did not fit me. It was way too tight, way too small. And the lady at the counter was like, I was complaining. I'm like, man, I don't think it's gonna fit me. And the lady was like, well, you know, by 5 o'clock today, right before we close, we're gonna put out some of our latest batch of melons on hoodies, all kinds of clothing, but we're gonna do another batch of the hoodies. If you want to come back and try to get one. I was like, yes, I absolutely want to do that. So my buddies and I, we went over to Periodic Brewing, which is right there in Leadville. We had a few beers, killed some time, went over back to Melanzana about 4:30, right before they closed, 4:30 or 5. They closed it pretty early. Went in there, they were just putting these hoodies up on the rack to get ready to label it. They weren't even labeled, they weren't priced, they weren't really ready to sell. And I went up to the lady, I'm like, large please, large. And she's like, well, these haven't even been QC'd, they haven't been quality checked. I don't care, give me one, please. I will pay extra to buy one right now. So the girl reluctantly pulled me off this melly and sold it to me. So I was able to get the size large. You know, it was so crazy. It's absolutely amazing that these pieces of clothing are in such demand, because there's really nothing that special about these things other than they're just super comfortable and they're the microgrid fabric and they got a hood and a drawstring and all that. But really, you know, they're not that big of a deal. It's just because they're in so much demand. You can only get them in the Leadville store. You can't, or, you know, or off eBay, or, you know, so you have to either know someone in Leadville or, you know, find someone in Leadville who can get one for you on a day where they're going to have some, or you're going to pay 3 to 4 times what they're worth on eBay, which I absolutely would not pay $200 for one of these. There's no way. But I paid $75. I paid the normal price, and I got my size. I was very excited. I also got a beanie, which was super warm. Love it. But it's funny because the guys I was with, they were all complaining about going to Melanzana. They were like, why are we going to this place? Why do you want this thing so bad? And then once I showed them these, they were like, oh, those are pretty comfy. And I think 5 out of the 6 guys, or 4 out of the 6 guys ended up walking out of the Melanzana store with a piece of clothing. So that was kind of funny. Another one of our extracurricular trips we had to do was my buddy decided he wanted to do a bike ride. And we were all on board with it. We thought it sounded great. We had heard about different bike rentals there in Vail. We found out that they were doing e-bike rentals. And there was all different places renting these e-bikes. So we ended up renting e-bikes for the afternoon and rode these things. I think we ended up going 30 to 35 miles on these e-bikes all around Vail, outside the outskirts of Vail and back roads, you know, bike trail. It was a blast, absolutely amazing. It was the one I had was a fat bike, and it was fun. It went up to about 20 miles per hour. It was kind of like a little mini moped. It had some good speed to it. It was fun, and we got cruising now. You know, basically we went all the way uphill the whole way out, and then all the way back was downhill. So, you know, we were hitting speeds on the downhills of 40 miles per hour on these bikes, and it was a blast. And it felt natural to me because I've had several motorcycles, and I, you know, wasn't scared by that speed at all. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Being on a bike again was a blast. I'm really, I got bitten by the bike bug bad out there on that trip, and not necessarily an e-bike. I don't feel like I need to buy an e-bike here in Ohio, but just a regular mountain bike or a touring bike or something. So I'm looking kind of hardcore at maybe something in the spring, maybe getting a new bike. I still have a Trek. It's like, I think the Trek is 15 to 20 years old. Runs fine. I ride it around still, but I need a new one. I need a lightweight frame. So I'm going to start looking at some Salsas or something like that. And we'll see. Just another thing to spend money on. Okay, so the third hike we did was our 14er day. And we decided, after some deliberation, varying levels of physical capability from the guys in the group. So we decided we were going to do the easiest 14er that we could find near us. And the guidebooks had all said Mount Bierstadt was the 14er to do, because it's a 14er. It was difficult, but not terrible. A lot of the Colorado residents consider this just a simple day hike, like a walk in the park kind of thing. They took their dogs to take their kids up this thing. For us, flatlanders from the East Coast, it's a little bit of a different story. We were still challenged with the altitude issue and things like that. So yeah, it was still a 14er, still above tree level in Colorado. This was the middle of the week and the parking lot was completely full, Now this was July, peak season probably for hiking something like this, because very short weather window for 14ers like that. But we were amazed just at how packed this trailhead was. It was crazy, insane. But so we started up the mountain. We immediately were greeted with this stream crossing that was difficult, and we're just like, holy cow, what the heck, one of us fell in. I didn't capture it in the video, but one of my buddies did fall in. He got out wet, like the waist down, and he had to deal with that. But it was a warm day. It was very, very comfortable. No worries about hypothermia or anything like that, really. And so anyways, we plugged on, we hiked up this thing, and it was a difficult climb, but it wasn't terrible. And again, I attribute that to the ginkgo biloba or the ibuprofen I was popping, or maybe just the amount of water that I was drinking. I was drinking a lot of water because I knew I had to stay hydrated. I really didn't have much problems with the altitude. It really didn't bother me. I felt good. I felt really good. The trail was easy for the most part. It's really wide path. There's some rocky areas, like a few scramble areas. Really not that bad. Unfortunately, a few of us, myself included, we got about more than 3/4 of the way to the top, and we decided that we were just kind of, we felt the fatigue effects. I didn't feel the lightheadedness or the dizziness or any of that. I just felt tired, and I was worried about getting back down, and beating the afternoon thunderstorms. That was another thing we were worried about, was the weather. I decided, and the other guys who decided to go back down with me, there were 3 of us who decided to call it and just go back down. The rest of the group decided to tough it out, and they went up and they summited. And after I talked to them after the trip, and they showed me the pictures and the video that they took, I was really, really mad at myself. I know that I could have done it. I absolutely could have completed that 14er and had that under my belt as a 14er summit. And why I didn't do it, I really don't know. Maybe it was peer pressure, the power of suggestion. I don't know. But I did not complete that 14er. So, well, now I have a reason to go back to Colorado and try it again, do another 14er. So that's what I'll do. But if you are considering doing a 14er in Colorado and around that area, I would recommend Mount Bierstadt. It is absolutely gorgeous, great bang for the buck. Of course, you're doing a 14er, you're in Colorado. I mean, it's not the most challenging. So if you're looking to really challenge yourself and do this really difficult traverse of a mountain, it's not that. But you could make it much more difficult if you wanted to go from Bierstadt to Mount Evans. Evans is basically across the way from it. You could hike from Bierstadt to Evans, and that's really not a hike, that's more of a mountain climb. I've watched some videos on that, and I watched one guy, and it was rock scrambling, dangerous, class 3, whatever, dangerous knife's edge actually a knife's edge from Bierstadt to Evans. I personally would not do that, but if you're into challenging yourself and you want to try something hard, you could definitely do that. The really weird, funky thing is on top of Evans, there's an observatory, and there's actually a road that goes up to the top of it. So there were cars driving up to the top of Evans. We could see the flashes of people's cameras and things from Bierstadt, which was kind of weird because all these people are hiking up to the top of this 14er, and we're looking at another 14er and seeing all these people who just drove up there for the afternoon. They're not winded at all. They're perfectly happy. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed in myself, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it because, you know, we still did a lot of miles that day, and for this Flatlander boy from Ohio going out there doing that, still pretty impressive. So our last hike of the trip was probably the least impressive. It was the least impressive. Still wasn't bad, but it was kind of, compared to everything else we'd seen, it wasn't our favorite. And I think the reason we didn't like the last hike was because of we were all kind of worn out from the trip. It was the second to last day. We were kind of done, and we were looking for something kind of easy but scenic. And this, everything that we had read had said that this hike was easy, and it was not easy. So we had chosen the Spraddle Creek Trail, which was very, very close to where we were staying. It was you know, supposed to be this easy hike, but very scenic, lots of great views of Vail. So we went over to the Spraddle Creek Trail. It immediately starts at this, it has this very weird trailhead. It's basically, there's like a bridal camp there, and then on the other side there's like an entrance to a gated neighborhood. And then you have to drive up this steep mountainside, and then all of a sudden you're at this trailhead, and it's just kind of weird. We were weirded out by that already. And because it's shared with horses, you know, there was a lot of horse traffic and things like that. But, you know, this trail was supposed to be really easy, really simple. And it ended up being straight up. I mean, straight up. We were hiking straight up. And basically the way they calculate this hike is they base it on the elevation gain and loss. Well, because it was an out and back, that meant that you gain a lot of elevation on the way up, and then you lose all that elevation on the way down, so it evens itself out. So that's what rates it as an easy hike. I would not rate this as an easy hike. I would rate this as a moderate to difficult hike. Probably moderate. It was not easy, and we were tired, and we were all kind of complaining. And I think we were all kind of upset because the scenery really wasn't that outstanding. Most of the hike was moderate. A few views of the mountains here and there, but it was just kind of through the woods and things like that. Now we did see, I saw a bald eagle, which was really cool. Didn't capture it on video, but we all could tell it was an eagle, definitely an eagle flying. That was cool. That was really neat. And then the very end of the hike, when you get to the very end of the trail, is incredibly awesome. There's the stream running through, the Spraddle Creek is running through, and it's rushing down the mountain, and it's very, very scenic, very pretty. I just kept thinking, it reminded me of someplace I'd be panning for gold. If you guys have ever seen that movie, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs on Netflix, there's a vignette about the prospector, and he's digging all the holes looking for gold. That's what this place reminded me of. If you haven't seen Ballad of Buster Scruggs, make sure you watch that movie. It's crazy. Telling the guys, I'm like, there's gold up here in these hills. There's gold in these mountains. Probably wasn't. Maybe fool's gold. Some of the people had said there was some cool rose quartz in the creek and things like that. I didn't see anything like that even. But, you know, whatever. It was still really, really cool. But we did the hike back down, and, you know, it was kind of an uneventful hike. I would say it was, again, it was our least favorite. It was it was still Colorado, it was still Vail, it was beautiful. I mean, but compared to everything else we had seen and done on that trip, that hike was probably the least impressive. We did see a really cool old structure, like an old cabin or something that was looked pretty historical, but other than that, I wouldn't recommend the Spraddle Creek Trail. There's so many other options, I think, around Vail. Originally, we had talked about doing Gore Lake and places like that. We did not do those. So I have another list for when we go out there again. Fingers crossed, I'm going to go back out there again and check out more of the area. So if you have not been to Vail, Colorado, I highly recommend it. If you're a skier, I'm sure it's absolutely amazing place to be. But if you're a hiker, it's also a very amazing place to be. You're in one of the most beautiful states in the whole United States. There are just so many options for hiking, so many trails. You can do easy day hikes, you can do extended backpacking trips. You know, your options are endless. I love Colorado. I'm a huge fanboy. It's one of my favorite states. And I love going there. I love the adventure, the exploration, the natural beauty, the wildlife. What a gorgeous place. I really hope to get back there very soon. I don't know when I'll get back there. It was 10 years since I was there before, so it might be another 10 years before I get back out there again, but who knows? You never know what'll happen. Well, guys, thanks for joining me while I ramble about this trip to Colorado. I hope you enjoyed some of it, maybe, but just see how this format goes. I'm probably doing more stuff like this during the winter months when I can't get out and hike like the way I want to. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. Support me as much as you can. Ring that little notification bell and make sure you get all the updates for this channel. I would love to have you experience the rest of my content. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. Until the next video, take care, and I'll talk to you really soon.